Part 5 is a part we'll do the entire part on the mill, machining wise basically. We will do setup 1 on the lathe prior to getting to this point where we'll just come down and part it off to 1.375 long if you want. Otherwise you can just saw cut a bunch of parts 1.375 long and that will be sufficient for what we're doing. Alright, so on this part I need to make a couple things. One is that if I look at this from my front plane here, you'll see that this is rounded off, and that's not really necessary. If I were to do that, I would have to turn this end on the lathe, and I don't want to have to do any extra steps that I don't need. So what we're going to do is just kind of do that with a straight cutter on the mill. So I'm going to need some geometry for doing that. And the other thing is I want to make some stock for this to simulate against. Again, not required, but it makes it a lot easier to see what we're doing. Alright, so what I'm going to do is start out by making my stock. So I'm going to go over here to my configuration manager, and you'll see I just have a default. I'm going to click on dogleg part 5, and then right click and say add configuration. And in here I'm going to call it stock, and hit OK. Now if I go back over to my feature manager tree and look at my right plane, you'll see that that is a cross section of this part. So I want to draw a circle on that. So I'm going to tell it to sketch a circle. If I go to my origin here, I'll draw a circle out. Again, it doesn't matter how big. And then I'll smart dimension this circle to be 0.375. And that gives me everything I need for this next portion. I'll tell it to do a feature of an extruded boss base, and I want it to not be blind. I want it to go both directions. So I'm going to tell this to be a mid-plane, and then my length here I'm going to type in 1.375, and that will give me what my stock will look like. And I'll hit OK. So now we have a configuration of our stock. I'm going to go back to my configuration manager and double click default again so I actually have my part. Now the next thing we're going to do is create some sketches that we'll utilize for side cutting this. So I'm going to go in here to my plane number 1. And actually I could choose this plane. I might make it a little bit easier. So I'll choose that plane there. Oh, we'll just use plane 1. So under plane 1, I'm going to tell it to sketch, and I want to make a circle. So I'll tell it circle, and I want to make it at the center of this and bring it out. So I might need to hover over the edge of this circle here and then go to the center of it. See this little black dot that appears? And click. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to make another one on the other side. So I hover over that, click on the center, and drag it out. I need to smart dimension both of those to be 0.375. Alright, so I have two circles there. I want to divide them in half and then trim them off. So I'm going to look at this from this plane. So it looks like it's the front plane. Or I could normal too. And I'm going to create a line from the quadrant here to the quadrant there. And then create another line from the quadrant here to here. And I'll hit escape. Now you'll see I have these two circles that are divided through the center. Then I need to go to trim entities, trim to closest, and I can choose to delete the inner portions of the circle and then also the line that I just created, and this will give me a half circle on each end. And I will confirm that. Now I have the sketch that I need for actually machining. So now we're prepared to go in and do the machining of this part.